Hey, everybody. I would like to welcome you to our Counterpoint Voice podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts. My name is Samantha Adams, and I'm joined by my other two co-hosts. You guys want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Excuse me, absolutely. My name is Everett Stevenson. I'm one of your co-hosts here today.
Hello, everybody. My name is Malik Foster, and I'm another co-host for the Counterpoints podcast. And we have a great topic for you guys today. Today, we will be discussing a Massachusetts bill that's proposing that federal prisoners can donate their organs in exchange for shortened prison sentences. So that's the topic of our discussion today. So they call it donations, but it's sort of some sort of compensation in a sense, in my view, because essentially what they're saying is, oh, if you want a short sentence, you pay the price of exchanging your organs. So it's very interesting take. It's not something new around the world, but it's definitely something that's not allowed in the United States. So federal law prohibits the sale of organs by prisoners. I think just organs, period. Right? We just take donations generally, and with prisoners right now, prisoners can donate their organs, but they can only donate it to family members. That's currently how it stands put. But Massachusetts is trying to, break the mold on that. So that's just a little bit of background for you guys on my end. I'll let my co-host kind of chime in a little bit here.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel like this is another intrusion into human rights issue in particular. When you think about the fact that one, when we kind of spoke on this before in the past about people trying to harvest, the organs of Black Americans, and particularly because of the melanin that's within our structure. Um, and I think we did it on a video once that talked about the harvesting of organs of or the reproductive organs of women, in particular Black women. And I think this is kind of akin to that discussion. Um, for one of the longest of times. And the reason why I'm referencing this within the concept of Black Americans in particular is because when we look at the incarceration rates, that is one of the highest of individuals who are incarcerated are Black Americans. And so, this is generally going to be possibly one of the majority of people who will likely be able to participate in this potential bill. And so, with that being a preference to this conversation, I feel like it's an issue that kind of concerns our community. But not only that, it's one that could cost people a lot. You're giving away things that may be vital to your survival. You're giving away things, and a lot of times you may have not even been rightfully convicted. Sometimes we've seen a lot of times where DNA has overturned a lot of cases. We've seen a lot of situations where people were just in the wrong place at the wrong time and with overzealous cops, causing certain harms. And a person wanting to get out of jail will probably be willing to look into all options that they have. And even if, they may be wrongfully committed, or convicted rather, this may be something that they see as an option to them, and could be even more of a detrimental harm to that individual. So that's one of the things when I first saw it that I thought of was how that could be just a damaging issue, and it's almost telling that we're getting to a point now where people are having to give away organs in order to get out of jail, as opposed to actually having a system of a reform system that will actually be more productive for allowing people to be reintroduced into society, as opposed to just saying, "Oh, well, you can come back as long as you don't have your liver or some other organ."
I just wanted to go ahead and add a few things. First off, the bill coming out of Massachusetts, I'm from Massachusetts. So, and I also have some family members who have received organ donations. So this topic hits a little bit closer to home for me. One thing that I know about the state of Massachusetts is that Massachusetts and a lot of its laws often are the blueprint for what happens in the rest of this country. Case in point, the Affordable Health Care Act was modeled after a healthcare bill called, what's it called? I can't think of the name of it right now. I'm drawing a blank. But they have pretty much essentially free healthcare, which is supplemented by Medicare and Medicaid in Massachusetts. And it works in a way, it actually works in that state. The reason why the Affordable Health Care doesn't really work as well in other states is because some of the parameters that they placed around it, especially when you're talking about more conservative states. And so Massachusetts typically, like I said, has the blueprint. The thing that I wanted to address is something that Everett definitely touched on, is the incarceration rate. When you talk about the incarceration rate in this country, 85 to 90% of prisons and jails are filled with Black men. And so it's incredibly disconcerting that they would propose, hey, if you want to get out of jail free or early rather, go ahead and give us that kidney. How about that liver? What's up with that lung? You know what I'm saying? I don't know if bone marrow is something that they could give up. I don't know. Like, it may be enticing to somebody who's in prison, who's ready to get the hell up out of there. And I don't know what the qualifications would be, aside from just being able to give. Like,
yeah, it mentions bone marrow, Sam.
It does. Okay. I'm not sure if you have to be clean for a certain amount of time. You can't have any type of illnesses or exposure to certain illnesses. I know that they have been doing a study in the state of Massachusetts where they have allowed for people that have been exposed to hepatitis B to be able to donate organs. I know that for a fact because one of my family members has received organs from someone with, exposed as hepatitis B. So they don't have hepatitis, it was just an exposure. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure that there are certain parameters as it relates to that. But again, going back to the episode that Everett was referring to when we were talking about Black women donating, there's Chino, our unofficial fourth podcast member, donating one of their organs. We dove into the fact that genetically, Black women carry something called the Eve gene, right? Because it said that we're the original woman. And so our DNA, everybody is linked to the Black woman, right? And so with that being said, of course, they want to have that so that they can do all these different types of experiments and everything else, which brings me back to things like when we're talking about experiments. Historically, Black people have been experimented on. We can't sit there and say that that's not true or whatever. It absolutely is true. It's been proven. They've had to pay out money. Case in point, the Tuskegee experiment. We also did an episode on that, so y'all want to go ahead and check that out. But long story short, Tuskegee experiment was they told these men that they were giving them one thing and gave them syphilis instead, and then watched them to see what happened. So, there's a whole other aspect as far as the trustworthiness that Black people have with the medical field. And then here it is, you have the medical field, which is almost like prisons for Black women, right? Because Black women constantly go to the doctor and tell the doctor was wrong and they don't listen. And Black women often suffer, right? As a result, and it's not true for everybody, but it's very, very frequently true, just like many believe that Black women have a higher threshold for pain than everybody else, which is also not true. So we can compare that. And then you compare the prison system, especially interactions with police, with Black men, right? And here it is, we have it where they have officially merged, where they're trying to go ahead and utilize that system, take advantage of the fact that you have all these people that are in jail or in prison to try to get them out by getting their organs. That's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is there is a shortage of organs, right? People need them and not a lot of people are giving them. And so it is a double-edged sword, right? Because it's like, yeah, that would fix a problem. That would fix two problems. But the other issue is people shouldn't feel like, oh my God, I got to give up my kidney to get out of jail, right? There's a whole issue of criminal justice reform that needs to happen in order for people to be getting out of jail and things like that. I don't know if giving up your lung or your liver or bone marrow or whatever have you just to get out of jail is something that should even be considered, in my personal opinion. But I think that is different. I think that is different for different people. You see what I'm saying? So, I mean, if you guys want to go ahead and add.
Yeah, I wanted to add a few things. Yeah, so there's other comparisons of this of organ harvesting, because I think that's essentially what it would be. Because as a prisoner, most prisoners are going to want reduced sentences or to get out, right? So obviously they're going to take the option of like, okay, I can exchange bone marrow, organs, a little something, something. Or maybe it's like, do I stay here for 30 years, or maybe I just get some years knocked off? It depends on how they handle that, specifically how they handle the shortening of sentences. And I guess it depends on the donation or the type of organ. Maybe they'll have a number or a range. Not too sure on that, but we know in China they harvest prisoners' organs, and that's something that they do over there, which is pretty interesting. So they forcibly remove organs from prisoners' bodies in China. So it's pretty well known that they've been doing that, because as you mentioned, Sam, there's a high demand of people who need these transplants and stuff like that. And of course, China has billions of people, like 2 billion. Maybe their population went down some because I know they've had certain rules, but they do have over a billion of people. We know that for a fact. So there's a lot of people in that country. So of course the need and demand's high. So they're going to do what they can to satisfy the need, because even though China would say they're not a capitalistic society, I think the whole world is capitalism at this point. So when there's needs and there's money involved, you're going to try to solve that problem through money, and money talks. So that's really what I wanted to add there, just to make that comparison. Like, this could lead us down a road where they walk back the federal ban on actually purchasing organs. People will be, it might become an industry of some sort. And you'll probably have some like legitimate organ dealers, organ businesses, just like how people thought marijuana would become an industry in the United States, and it's starting to become a big industry here. So I think maybe it'll eventually lead to organ dealing as a industry.
Yeah, I definitely think that that's the case. I mean, we've seen that this, back in the day, they tell stories of how, people would get kidnapped and, left in a, tub full of like ice and wake up realizing that, drugged, and then, wake up realizing that their organs were taken. So there's always been a market for it. But I also think that it's interesting in looking at it in the realm of how people discuss when they talk about anti-aging and the conversations around that. You see people a lot of times get blood transfusions and things of that nature so that they can have more fresher, younger blood in them to kind of keep them going. The adaptation of white cells to try to reproduce other areas of their body that may have not developed well or have been prone to injury that needs, more support. And so stem cell research and things of that nature has been one big thing that they looked at within that development. And I think this is another part of that process. When we talk about the anti-aging, allowing people to get, stem or organs of probably someone a little bit younger this can allow for an older individual who may have been winning in life for a while and has the ability to afford a $40,000, lung, a $50,000 organ, or whatever the case may be. And they can go out and purchase that and get one from a younger person who has a good bill of health, and then they can adopt that into in their own body. So I think that's another part of it. That's, again, I agree that there's a lot of people who need them for serious health issues. And so I want to be mindful of that as well. But there's also other individuals that may be using it just to prolong their lives. And so, that's another factor that I think that goes into this, where you're now, exploiting individuals who may be in here. And again, I understand everybody that's in jail isn't necessarily innocent. But I do think that, it teeters on the humanity side of rehabilitation, when we have to sit back and think and look at how and what we're allowing individuals to have to endure due to the fact that they have, committed a crime. So
the other thing I want to add is something that nobody's really, I think, addressed yet, is what it's like to recover from organ donation, right? Like, you have to have some serious medical attention. You have to make sure that you're taking medications and that you're in a clean environment and that you're taking good, proper care of yourself so that you can recuperate from donating that organ. Jails do not provide good medical care, period. Full stop. That's it. That's all. It is a struggle to get Tylenol to people that are incarcerated. Tylenol. Prisons are a big business, so anything that anybody ever wants is going to cost exuberant amounts of money. So if I go to the store right now and I go buy a bottle of Tylenol, might cost me $10. I go to the jail and my client says, hey, I've been trying to get Tylenol for 2 weeks. 2 pills of Tylenol. And you're supposed to get them once every 4 hours. Now, mind you, Tylenol is not even what they give you when you give an organ, right? They don't want to give you anything that you can become addicted to, things like that. And some of those pain medications, healing process, things like that are some serious drugs. And so if you're donating to get time knocked off, the question also becomes, are they releasing you immediately upon given that organ, or they're going to just send you back to your cell for you to figure it out, right? People could die. You can get infections, all kinds of things. Things happen to people that walk in there completely healthy and they walk out with other things, different types of infections and other kinds of illnesses that they get just from the lack of cleanliness that is in the jail and in prisons. I think that it's really, really important to recognize that, jails are not the most cleanly places to be giving out organs. You see what I'm saying? I think that also has to be something that's considered, because it just goes to show that the lack of care and concern that you have for those people, because a lot of times people are looking at it like they're just inmates, but those inmates are people. They have other people who love them. Most of them have families. A lot of them have children, significant others. They have somebody that cares about them. And I think a lot of times when people think, oh, this person did something wrong, we're just going to throw them away. Oh, but by the way, let me hold that kidney right quick. That's not it, right? Those are people, right? Somebody loves them and cares about them. And so it's like those types of things should also be considered, because those types of decisions are often family decisions as well. And a lot of times, I think that when people need an organ, I think when people are buying organs, stolen organs and things like that, that might be when you see people trying to do it just to, for vanity reasons and things of that nature. But when you're talking about prolonging your life, when you need something like a liver, a kidney, lungs, even bone marrow, that can totally change the course of a person's life. And so I think that it's important to recognize that there's nothing wrong with organ donation, right? It's just that you have to be careful and you have to be mindful of how we're going about getting it. You see what I'm saying? And what the process and procedure is and where is it coming from. And I know they have to make sure that you're a match, because if you're not a correct match, it could kill you and that other, well, it may not kill that other person, but it could kill you if you're a recipient of an organ that doesn't match appropriately. So, or it could reject. I mean, and then you'd be right back at square one. So I think it's really important for people to recognize that, you know, it's a very serious decision. And I think that if they do go ahead and pass that law, it's going to be interesting to see what other states do, especially where you have states that rely heavily on money from prisons. Because what that does is, what does that expense look like for prison to do an organ donation? I mean, to send inmates to the hospital for that type of major surgery. What does it look like to have people at the jail to help those people appropriately recover? And is it going to cut the sentences down to a point where you just have a heavier influx of people coming in and out, in and out, in and out? And now it looks like a factory, like you're just coming through, you get convicted, maybe you're charged, maybe you actually did it, maybe your charges are trumped up, who knows? But in order to get out, you got to give it up. You give it up.
I was just going to say, add on to what you're saying, Sam. I think this is going to take advantage of the poor and minority populace, right? Especially Black Americans, right? So, if you're poor and you don't have money for a good counsel, or maybe you just don't feel like going through the stress, and they say, hey, we can reduce your sentence. All you have to do is serve a couple of years, especially if you didn't do a major crime. All you got to do is donate an organ, donate something in exchange. I think it could lead to a lot of corruption, like where they'll just bypass all the legal avenues and try to bypass that and skip straight to, hey, here's this donation option, as you're speaking to, you know what I'm saying, like I don't know.
I can imagine me going to my client, like, hey, client, the state
public defender.
The state says, hey, if you give up your left kidney, then you won't have to serve any jail time.
Or like, oh, you only have to serve like 25% of your sentence, like like something like that. So crazy. So it would corrupt the system. I feel like the system would be really corrupt.
The system is already corrupted.
Yeah, right? Yeah, it would corrupt the already corrupted system even worse, to where it basically divides it into another market and industry. You already have the labor, the free labor, the prison industrial complex. And then now it's like, okay, now you have the organ dealing situations. So organ harvesting and stuff like that. So it's like, it's going to become crazy if that's some of the cons, I think, arguments against the bill, because I think it'll open up a Pandora's box, to say the least, on the things that they're going to try to do in order to convince the prisoners to consent. Because of course they're going to try to make it seem like, well, they consented. We told them everything. Like, hey, you can donate. You don't have to. You can serve your time full time. They're going to make arguments for it, but I mean, it's up to Massachusetts, so we can see if that will go through. Because I mean, if it goes through there, then I'm sure it can go through other places, and other states will consider it, especially to see how it works. Like, oh, we've seen a decline in transplant needs. It's been helping solve a lot of problems.
That have a decline in crime too, though.
Oh yes, that's another issue I was going to mention too, Sam. Like, policing might be different. Like, hey, we really need to meet a quota here so we can have a certain amount. Like, especially if the bill passes and you wait like 12 months, a year, once some of that data comes back and they see the results, yeah, they're definitely going to try to shift the kind of the policing. Like, hey, hey, here's your quota. You got to make sure you make these amount of arrests. Like, hey, make sure none of these crimes are getting bypassed.
Yeah, but people also might be like, look, I don't think it's worth my liver.
That's true. Some people might say that, but then again, you're still going to have that group that's going to,
not continue to push forward. I know.
Yeah, so it's still going to help.
Up charges. Yeah.
It's gonna help. I mean, it's gonna help people, but it's also I fear that it's just gonna be targeted against minorities. It's like I think, in my opinion, that well, I'll get into my final thoughts on it. But yeah, I just think it's just gonna lead into legal black market dealings that has already been going on, but just be more open about it, but under a disguise of a donation, but it's really not a donation. It's really a transaction.
Mm-hmm.
But you got anything you want to say, E, or like yeah?
No, I think you guys were spot on with some of the comparisons that you're referring to and ideas towards what you think, maybe with this may become of in the future. And it was one of the reasons why when I saw it was just shocking of the conscious to just hear that would be something that would even be considered, in this day and age. But yeah, so that's pretty much all I have on it.
Well, moving into my overall final thoughts, I don't know about this bill. I think that I get the benefit from it and how it can potentially save lives in both aspects, right? Both save lives of those who need the organs and not give people time back, right? Because time is the one thing in this world that you can spend and not get back. So give people the ability to get some of their time back, get their life together, and really do the right thing, right? But then there's also that recidivism rate where they might just be like, I'm back at it. You know what I'm saying? Even though I'm short a kidney or whatever have you. But it also can create greater problems too, right? You're talking about problems as it relates to more Black people going to jail and getting convicted and going to prison. More because the thing about it is it's about our DNA, and they always want to try to get a hold of our DNA so that they can do whatever it is that they want to do or experiment on our Black people. Even with the COVID vaccine, I almost forgot about that. Remember when COVID first happened? There was like 3 people in the whole continent of Africa who had COVID, and they wanted to go test the vaccine over there. Like, why? Don't nobody over there got it? Go test it somewhere where it's rampant, right? And so it's like they want to continuously try to use Black folks as guinea pigs, which ain't it. So I think, like I said, it's definitely a balancing act when you're trying to weigh the need for people to have a legitimate need for organ donation, including bone marrow donation and things like that, versus where you getting these from and why does it have to be from people that are in prison, right? It's like you're giving them, it's supposed to be an incentive, but at the same time, is it really an incentive, or are you really just kind of putting somebody between a rock and a hard place, someone who really wants that time to be free, right? Freedom is incredibly important. It's a part of the foundation of this country. It's supposed to be anyway. And so I think that it's a tough decision to make. My concern is the negative impacts that it's going to have on Black people as a whole. Overall, because I don't think it's going to necessarily breed as well as people think. I mean, vote over well as people think. So that's my final thought on that.
Yeah, just within my closing thoughts though, I think it's something that definitely should be reconsidered. I do feel as though, we have a duty to ensure that we are being considerate of all individuals when we are making these bills, and looking at how how I don't want to say the justice system in particular, but just how the prison systems and things of that nature have been run, and how the groups that's most likely to be affected by this bill is definitely one thing that I think a stronger reason why I feel like it needs to be discussed, advocated against, and also looked at, knowing, what all is at stake and who all stands to benefit from it as well. I mean, while there is some cases where there be, opportunities for life-saving procedures to occur, I do think that it would allow for more of a stronger market for things to occur more so on a vanity side of it than necessarily for individuals who could really benefit from it, because again, they may not have the funds to even afford to pay for the transplant or to afford the organ itself. So yeah, that's my last thoughts on it.
Yeah, and my final thoughts are this. I think I understand where the bill is coming from because there is a dire need for these transplants and for these organs for people that need them for various reasons. But I think this is not the way to go about it because I feel like it will corrupt system even more. It'll be even more corrupted. So that's one of the reasons why I think this bill shouldn't go through because obviously it would affect Black and Brown people the most, primarily Black Americans in this country, and I think that's the concern I have because it would be exploiting a situation where okay, somebody could have did whatever crime, we don't know how severe the crime is or how many years they got, and they can get a sentence reduction because they donated an organ. So that's another thing. So I would need more specifics and details on that. I mean, I haven't seen it come out yet, so when it comes out, we'll know. But would this go for all prisoners, or would this be just for select crimes? Like maybe they would exclude murder or something like that. But even still, these people are committing crimes and they're able to reduce their sentences by donating organs. So that's I don't think that's kind of a game that this country wants to play as far as incentivizing people into giving away their organs in exchange for some sort of benefits. Um, so I'll leave that at my final thoughts there. I would like to transition into the book of the month. In the book of the month, I have the book actually with me, 4 Hour Work Week. It's a really good book. If you want to change your lifestyle, try to think of some side hustles to improve your life, it's a great book for that. If you want to escape, typical 9 to 5, have a little side hustle, make a little extra income. It's by Timothy Ferriss. It's a New York Times bestseller. So once again, the 4 Hour Work Week. That's the book of the month. And the Black business that I want to highlight is it's a multiple thing. Okay, so this is a guy, YouTuber that I listen to sometimes, and since we're in the month of love, Valentine's Day is coming up. I think it's appropriate to kind of highlight what he does and what he talks about. The YouTube channel is under the name of Mia Obsidian Ali or Obsidian Radio. You can catch him at Obsidian Radio, and he's the author of 2 books. And you can find his books at, we'll put the links where you can get that. It'll come up on the screen, but it's store.bookbaby.com, Book of Obsidian. And he has 2 books, one book for the gentlemen and another book for the ladies. And it's primarily focused on Black love. And I highlighted his work because I feel like we definitely need to focus on Black love, Black relationships more and have it better because at the current moment, I feel like the Black love is kind of fractured. And we used to have the highest marriage rates in the United States and some of the most close-knit communities, but nowadays we're fractured and torn apart. So that's the reason why I wanted to highlight him as a Black business of the month here. And then now I'll transition us to the motivational minute. I have a good quote that really spoke to me by it's Super Bowl Sunday, and I was just thinking about a quote by Vince Lombardi here. The quality of a person's life is a direct proportion to their commitment to excellence, regardless of their chosen field of endeavor. And that really speaks to me because, I strive to try to improve consistently. And I think everybody should be the best version of themselves so they can enjoy their lives. Because, while we're here on earth, we want to have a life of enjoyment and a life of excellence and a life of commitment and not a life of misery. So that quote really spoke to me. Once again, it states the quality, excuse me, I'll pull it back up. The quality of a person's life is in direct proportion to their commitment to excellence, regardless of their chosen field of endeavor, by Vincent Marty. So that is the motivational minute for you guys. So that concludes our broadcast for today. Thank you guys for joining us. Please like, subscribe, share, tell a friend. We upload every Saturday. If not, just keep a lookout. If anything else happens, we'll definitely upload shortly after. You can catch us on Wednesdays around 8:30. We go live on Instagram at Counterpoints Podcast. You can catch us there. Links will be in the description below for our Instagrams and our social medias. We're also on Facebook as well. We have a Facebook page, Counterpoints. You can catch us there. And if you want us to talk about a certain topic, just let us know. We're more than willing to take a look at that topic and have a discussion about it. So you guys have any last final words I want to add? Maybe I missed something.
I think you got it. All of our show times again are going to be shown at the end, along with our socials. One thing may not be on there. I'm also on Tagged, so if you're ever looking for me, you can also find me there. It's Sam, SAMMIYAMM, Sam I Am. That's my screen name on Tagged. So yeah. Other than that, what Malik said. We'll see y'all hopefully on Wednesday.
All right, guys. Thank you for watching and thanks for subscribing, liking, and sharing. So have a good rest of your day, week, month, and happy Valentine's Day in advance.
All right, peace.